Hey everyone, it's Matthew. Video number 2. Hope everyone's doing well, considering we've all spent the last year of our lives smelling our own breath, thanks to these mask mandates. This month in the news, mouthwash sales is way up. The search for Bigfoot continues. No luck so far, but as always, the show must go on. So I will keep looking. Other news, last month, a Canadian cabinet maker made world news and a world record by harvesting a 63-pound turnip out of his garden. Onlookers said, ooh and ah, and why is that guy holding that huge tumor? In my newest segment, Useless Facts to Lay Awake at Night and Worry About, Miss Piggy from the Muppets and Yoda from Star Wars were both voiced by the same voice actor. It's a new one by me. And then no matter how hard you try as a human throughout your life, you will never be able to touch your right elbow with your right hand. So don't think about that one too long. It'll just give you terrible anxiety. The newest memory, I guess, to add this month is another one from the 90s, the early 90s in Camas. At some point, a horse or a cow had died years previous in the bottom field at Grandma and Grandpa's, or on Grandma and Grandpa's property. For those of you who don't remember or may be unfamiliar, the bottom field was the northernmost, as I recall, the northernmost field that Grandma and Grandpa owned. To me, being 7 years old, the bottom field was a place of like mystery and darkness. It was just one of those. You'd hear talk of a faraway land, the bottom field, and was always just very mysterious, and you couldn't really see it from the house. So they just point vaguely and say the bottom field. So anywho, Ben and Josh convinced me that dead animal was actually a dead kangaroo. Yeah, why they chose kangaroo, no idea, but I absolutely and 100% blindly believed them. Because everyone has heard of those Utah-based Rocky Mountain kangaroos that just show up dead. When I was young, you believe the older people know what they're talking about, and you just don't even question it. So, but every so often, I'd catch wind of a rumor that Ben and Josh were going to go on a walkabout out in the fields and out there behind Grandma and Grandpa's house, and they're typically armed with BB guns and golf clubs, ski poles, sticks, whatever was laying around. But one way or another, I would always kind of pry my way into those excursions. And if they didn't want me to go, I'd generally just cry and complain until they caved, and finally they'd kind of reluctantly let me go. But as young boys with BB guns so often do, we'd just shoot anything that moved. We'd all manner of birds and gophers and grasshoppers and fence posts, leaves, dirt clods, you name it. We probably shot at it more than once. But every time we would finally get to the bottom field, it would always go something like this. We'd hop that last fence row. We'd walk up to that dead kangaroo, and we'd sit there and poke at it with sticks and look at its bones and comment about its big ugly teeth. And then, without fail, somebody would say, "Hey guys, be quiet. Shh. I think I see a badger." To which we would all then stand up and look in the direction, and then again, without fail, there would be a, "Oh no. Oh crap. Here it comes. Run!" Of course, we would all turn around, run back toward the fence as fast as we could. Now, I don't know how many of you have spent time hiking or hunting with Josh or Ben. Those guys are like juggernaut mountain goats. I mean, it's unbelievable. They have an extra gear that the rest of us weren't born with. You can't keep up with them. They're just beasts when you put them outside, and they've always been that way. For as long as I can remember, I've always been trying to keep up with them. So they, of course, were several years older than me, so they would just run and pretty much leap over the fence. Well, not me. I'm more of a foothills ground sloth with altitude sickness and way too many snacks. So I was always in the rear, and always struggling to keep up. But the 7-year-old me, of course, would be left behind to try to climb this fence, and I would just struggle with it. And the whole time in my head, there's this badger that's right behind me that's getting ready to latch onto my leg. You don't know what it's like to have a real panic attack until you're forced to climb a fence that's taller than you are, just to escape the jaws of some imaginary fire-breathing badger with teeth like knives and just general hatred in its heart. Just so terrifying the whole time, trying to struggle to, climb over that fence. Kind of like the fear of, like, if you're, say, driving and you're trying to take your sweater off and you kind of get your arms and head stuck in there for a second while you're going down the road. Kind of like that fear. Or, as they would say in Missouri, I was more nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. That's where I live right now. It's awesome. Anyway, somehow I would always make it over the fence and catch up with the boys, and we'd sit there and recount, who saw the badger and how did we get away so fast and all this stuff. And I'm just struggling to breathe at that point, so scared. But after a few minutes, we'd, kind of turn around and just kind of walk back to the house. So that series of events happened 4, maybe 5 times. Never once, not one time, did I ever see a badger. Not once. I don't know what they were seeing, if they actually saw a badger or if it was gophers or butterflies. No idea. But I ran away from a lot of badgers I didn't see. So moral of the story is, if you live in Utah and you're 7 and you run across a dead kangaroo, just please use extreme caution, because it's probably guarded by an army of imaginary badgers. Don't say I didn't warn you. Oh, and happy birthday month to Sarah, to Tice, to Emmylou, to Anna's daughter Zoe, and to my daughter Asia LeRae. Happy birthday month. Love you guys.